All right, guys, today we're going to teach you how to make soil healthier for your veggie gardens, your indoor plants, and your flowers. So vegetables and flowers are usually going to be growing in a similar situation. You're going to have them outdoors in some nice soil. The best way to make your soil healthier outside is to add organic matter. Like we said before, that's going to be your compost, which is going to add organic matter and plant available nutrients, as well as beneficial microbes, which you need. Next, what I advise would be is to get a soil test. Any kind of garden center will have a soil test where you can find out the pH of your soil. pH is important because that's actually how plants eat. There's different amendments that you can get to either raise or lower the pH, but as long as you're in a certain range, about 5.5 to 6.5, you're golden. The benefit of microbes is fungi will actually bring the pH of soil down, whereas bacteria will bring the pH of soil up. So make sure you got tons of these in there because they'll balance it for you, which is beautiful. So next you want to make sure that water is not just evaporating out of your garden bed. The typical method is usually to use some type of bark mulch, and that's basically going to cover the surface of the soil so that the sun and the wind is not evaporating all that water. It's also great for preventing weeds because it chokes out any seeds. My favorite method is cover cropping. Cover cropping is basically growing something like clover or barley or some type of specific grass. What that's going to do is it's going to create a living mulch. Because the surface of your soil is going to be covered with small plants, it's going to prevent evaporation. Roots are very efficient at holding onto water. So the more roots that you have in that soil, the more water it's going to be able to hold. Now, roots also release different things like carbohydrates and sugars and starches. This is food for different microbes. In return for the food that the plant is giving the microbes break nutrients down for the plant to eat. Therefore, the more roots that are in your soil, the more microbes you're going to have attracting and the more food that's actually going to be available in that area. So to cap off, we've got organic matter is key. Mulching, whether it's going to be something like a bark mulch or a living mulch. I promise if you do these two things, you will have successful vegetables, successful flowers that are more resistant to pests and disease. All right, now how do we make our soil healthier for indoor plants? Indoor plants are a little bit different because we've taken them from their natural environment and we've stuck them in an area that is suited for humans to live. People don't like to put dead leaves on top of the soil because they think it's going to attract pests. So there's actually no form of organic matter getting back into your soil like there would be in the outdoors. So my number one tip for indoor plants to make it healthier would be to get some organic matter back into that soil, whether that be in the form of a compost or something like bios. The benefits of bios over compost is that it's made in a stabilized environment, so you're not going to have any risks of pests or disease coming in with that compost. Microbes would be the next most important, which is going to be your bacteria, your fungi, protozoa, and tons of others. The benefits of compost and bios is that they actually add microbes back into your soil as well, so you're accomplishing 2 in 1. The last tip would be to use some type of mulch. This is going to keep the water in your soil, which is going to reduce evaporation, and you're not going to have that crusty layer on top of the soil. And it's also going to help prevent pests from being on top of your soil, fungus gnats from laying eggs in your soil, spider mites, everything like that. Now for houseplants, we have smaller pots, so bark mulch may not be the best option, but you can use things like rice hulls, which are an amazing mulch. You can also use a living mulch, which I love, something like clover that grows nice and small. And what clover does is it actually grabs nitrogen from the air and brings it down into the soil. So that's going to be feeding your plants for free and it looks beautiful. The last tip I would give for houseplant soil is make sure that your soil consistency is proper to the plant. For example, if you plant an orchid into a plain potting mix, it's probably not going to be very happy because there's too much moisture, not enough oxygen in that mix. So for your plant's sake, make sure you know what it wants to grow in and tailor it to that. Then add things like your compost, your living mulches, and your microbes into it. All right, guys, so get out there, get your garden beds nice and healthy for the spring, get your flowers looking beautiful, and get those indoor plants thriving because you can. And all of these tips are going to help you do just that.